days ago, and we vowed to do something, and we're not stopping. We've had a very lengthy legal chess game with Williamson County, and so we've had to be very reserved in our approach to releasing information. We want your support desperately, but more than that, we want Greg out of jail. Amen? And you guys are fighters. You know, this has been going on for close to 100 days, and our support is just as strong as it was on day one. And I think that most everybody here would say that that feeling in the pit of your stomach is just as strong today as it was when the verdict came back. You see, we've got a major problem in our system because we make deals with criminals and then we prosecute to the fullest extent of the law those that stick to their innocence. And so we've got a young man that has been convicted of a crime that he did not commit. He's innocent, and he's serving a 25-year prison sentence. And we can't even get our elected officials to have a hearing to hear the proof of the innocence. And so, you know what? Williamson County, we have our hearing. It's tonight because you work for the public. You work for the people of Williamson County. And we would love to settle this in a courtroom. But the truth is going to be brought to light, whether it's inside the courtroom or whether it's right here on the jail lawn. But one way or the other, his proof of his innocence will be heard. You see, the thing about the truth is, the more you try to destroy it, the more you try to bury it, when it comes out, when it's brought to light, it will expose everything that has tried to destroy. That truth will expose all of those things. And that's why, in the case of Michael Morton, those officials were held accountable, not because they got it wrong, but because after they got it wrong, they did everything they could to make that which was wrong look right. And we've seen it too many times here in Williamson County. And we are not going to let that happen to Greg. He is not going to be standing on a stage 25 years from now, as I saw Michael Morton do this morning, and talk about all the years that were robbed from him, his childhood, the childhood of his son that was stolen from him by these corrupt people that are doing this. We're not going to let that happen to Greg. I don't know how long it's going to take, but it's not going to be 25 years.
Amen.
And the more I wish I wasn't in this fight for selfish reasons, just goes to show why we can't quit.
That's right.
We can't stop. Because if we do, Greg's truth may never come out. It may never be. If there wasn't people fighting behind the scenes for Michael Morton, he would not have been standing on that stage today.
That's right. That's right.
He would have been sitting in a penitentiary. And so, guys, continue to fight with me. Take it to the next level. And now that we're going to be able to give you some of this proof of Greg's innocence, that you can talk intelligently with your friends, I've had people ask me the entire time, what can I do? Here's what you can do. First of all, you can vote.
Yes.
You can vote. Don't just vote straight ticket. I've made that mistake my entire life.
Thank you.
Look at the candidates. Look at what they stand for. And let's make a change in Williamson County.
They work for me.
That's right. They work for every single one of us. remind them that they work for the people and that when they get it wrong, they better make it right. Make it right as soon as they possibly can.
That's right.
That we have a system that does not celebrate wins and losses, but that it takes pride in the fact that it's accurate.
That's right.
Because that's all that matters in the criminal justice system. I don't care how many people you label as a sex offender. As a concerned citizen, I care how many true sex offenders you get off the streets. I don't care how long you lock people up for. I care that you lock up the right people.
That's right.
I don't need you to make crimes fit criminals. I need you to get the criminals that caused the crime.
Amen.
That committed the crime. Shaping evidence will not be tolerated in Williamson County. Destroying evidence will not be tolerated in Williamson County. Deleting evidence will not be tolerated in Williamson County.
That's right.
Because it may just be another day at the office for you, Jana Duty, but this is a young man's life.
That's right. Every last family and many.
And when you destroy the life of a young man with so much promise, with so much future, you destroy the lives of everybody around him also that know that he is innocent. And so without further ado, I want to, first of all, everybody give Keith Hampton a hand. I don't know if you've ever played poker against somebody with 5 aces, but that's a tough hand to beat. And that's what he's been dealing with this entire time. We had the judge shuffle, and he's had to do the best he can. And I can tell you this, he's fought as hard as he possibly could, and he's done everything that he can, and he's going to continue to fight. So you guys give it up for Keith Hampton.
Thank all of you. I'm kind of here to give you an idea of what the next stages are going to be and how you can help. First, this past week was pretty wild, right up down to the wire, dealing with the judge, trying to convince him to still have a hearing, which is really all that we need. The truth will come out. The only victory this DA's office can claim is a delay. It's going to happen sooner or later. Do not doubt that.
Right.
The truth will out. But I am very frustrated that, and it is unprecedented in my career. I've been doing this for almost 30 years, and I can tell you, I've never, in the space of 45 days, had to contend with 3 different judges with a looming 75-day time limit, which is, of course, Monday. And even as late as 3 o'clock on Friday, I was led to believe that just a little bit more might still get that hearing. And the various witnesses who scattered really all over the country, I told them not to cancel their plane tickets until the very end, till 5 o'clock came and went, and 6 o'clock. So I was holding out the hope that we still really could have that hearing. In the course of that, of the exchange between me and the judge, all of that is on paper. So the next thing, this is what's going to happen tomorrow. I'm going to file a notice of appeal. The fight moves to the 3rd Court of Appeals in Austin. The issue is pretty simple. He was entitled to a hearing. The law says he gets a hearing. He was denied a hearing. So I'm going to the justices at the 3rd Court of Appeals. There'll be 3 of them assigned, and they will hear this case. Now, in the meantime, what is going to happen is all of the documents and all of the emails between me and the judge will be made public.
All right.
I'm going to give that to him, and you can show the world. You can see every single thing, because there were no telephone conversations with this last judge. There was with the second judge, but not with the one that denied the hearing. The one that granted the hearing and who then disappeared, we did have discussions. And we had email exchanges too that are not much importance. But everything else is on paper, and there is no other conversations that occurred. So you'll be able to read exactly what happened and exactly what was said, and you can tell everybody.
And we will.
Good,
Right.
good.
Sure will.
Good, because I know that there's still people who don't understand you're on the right side. He is innocent, and one way or the other we're going to prove that. Got to do it in a court of law, and I tried to do that. I am very sorry to say that Williamson County has done it again.
That's right.
We tried to prevent it. We tried to stop it from happening. Right up till 6 o'clock on Friday, and it fell on deaf ears over and over again. I met with the district attorney and her first assistant and the prosecutors who prosecuted the case. I brought a PowerPoint presentation for them. I brought them documents. I brought them reports. It was a wall. They were not receptive, is the best way I can put it. So I don't know what else, frankly, I could have done to get this hearing, except to go to a higher court and say we still need this hearing. Now, in the meantime, Greg is going to, they're going to ship him out pretty fast. I'm glad you had this rally today because I know he's going to know that. And I'm going to go in and see him. But he'll be routed, and within about 45, probably 60 days, you will know what unit that he's at. I will monitor that. And then you can write to him and keep his spirits up. In the meantime, what else is going to happen and why your support is going to continue to be necessary is, and Jake knows this probably better than anybody, and thank God you're here, is we have to continue the investigation. What I put together I had 60 days, essentially, to put together what we have. To me, it's more than enough. That can always be improved. So I have some very specific goals to be set, and that we not waste a single day, so that when we do get that hearing, I have twice as much stuff as I do now.
Gotcha.
Okay? So that's what your support is going to go for. I can't be much more specific than that, but there are rocks that I was not able to turn over, and I'm very interested as to what's underneath those rocks, and I'm going after it.
Go.
What else to say? I guess I can answer questions or something. Did I miss something that did I cover everything that everybody wanted? Okay. Yes, sir.
I'm sure a lot of us are wondering, what is it they're trying to hide? Why are they fighting so long? I know they got their win and that's it, but why is this case so popular?
If you couldn't hear that, he's asking, why did they fight a hearing so vigorously? It's just a hearing. I asked the exact same question in one of my motions. I basically said, if you have that level of confidence in your case,
Right.
why would you be afraid of a hearing in front of an impartial judge? There's no good answer to that. There just isn't. Why do we have that judicial building over there? What do we do over there all day? We have hearings. We have judges who listen to witnesses and consider evidence, and they're supposed to render justice. That's all we ask for.
That's right.
That's not too much. That's the minimum. That's what you're entitled to. That's what Greg was entitled to.
Right.
And so, yes, I'm headed to the Third Court of Appeals. Quite frankly, I've already started my brief. I mean, And the other events that are going to happen are this. One is you're going to get to see, because it's going to be scanned. I'm going to scan all of it, email it to you. You'll probably want to take excerpts from it and not just put the whole thing on the website. That's fine with me. Everybody can read it. It'll be an official document from the clerk's office. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I'll get a date at some point from the Third Court of Appeals, and they may grant oral argument. If they do, you'll want to go to Austin and be present for that. And then the third thing is once we win, you'll want to come to the hearing. Okay?
We have another question.
Oh yeah, you bet, yeah.
I have a question. My thing is, how can the second judge grant us a hearing for Monday, and then all of a sudden he just put everything on? How does that happen?
I don't know. She's asking, for those you didn't hear, how did it happen? First we get the judge who oversaw the case recuse himself. Then the Chief Justice of the Texas Supreme Court appoints the Chief Justice of Harris County, and then he disappears. He didn't recuse himself.
That's what I want to know.
I know. I don't have an answer. I don't.
That right there alone, to people in this county to understand.
Yeah, it's very strange.
Is it connected to the last name Puryear in any way?
I don't know.
You don't know?
His father is at the Third Court of Appeals, and obviously I will have a motion to recuse him from overseeing whether or not. But that second judge, I don't know. I will tell you this: he was preparing for the hearing. The man had his lawyers gather evidence. He was serious, and I can only imagine it was something with the shortness of time. It could be anything. It could be medical. I don't know. But there is no recusal. There was no motion or anything. Frankly, what I got, which I will include in the documents that I filed over there in that clerk's office, is the email that I got out of the blue from Judge McSpadden's office saying Judge McSpadden will not be overseeing this case. Chief Justice Hecht will appoint a new judge. And, you know, I'm looking at that going, what? Where? How is this happening? And then I really didn't expect that the new judge, Judge Gist, would actually deny a hearing. Jake reminded me of something, and you will see this in the documents that are filed, because I went ahead and typed it up. I have such confidence in this evidence. I'm not going to be so reckless as to detail it, but I have so much confidence. I literally had prepared a PowerPoint to show the prosecutors, and I finally went ahead and put it in one of my emails and in one of my third amended motion, which I filed within a half an hour of yet another denial from the judge, and I told him two things. One is, okay, for Greg to be guilty, he had to have committed the crime at some point when the child is at the house. There are exactly 192 days that could have happened. At the time that I filed the motion, within 30 days, I could account for 185 of those days. Still, that's a lot of extra days to account for. We've done it, and so I put that in the motion. I can tell you where he was. I can give you GPS coordinates where he was. I can tell you exactly what he was doing. At the moment, anybody has any theory that he did anything to any child. I have that evidence. Love to present it to you if we could just have a hearing. Give you live witnesses, documents. And so that's the nature of the evidence of innocence. And it's solid stuff. It's just I don't know if it gets any better than that. It's all admissible. You know, we would all, the whole world could hear this evidence if only we could have a hearing. Yes, ma'am.
Does it factor in at all the fact that a juror
tells us that he had pressure put upon him to change his
The
mind?
juror, yeah, the juror is. I needed that to get me a hearing, actually, and yes, my belief is you didn't simply have a. I don't look at it as a pressured juror. If you're a juror, you've taken an oath to render a true verdict. He did not do that. You do not come back with a guilty verdict unless you are convinced beyond a reasonable doubt. You've got a doubt. I'm sorry. You signed up for it. You're supposed to stand your ground. If it winds up in a mistrial, you never surrendered your conscience. You're never required to do that anywhere in the law. And he did. And then he was polled, and the judge asked him, "What's your verdict?" And he stood up and said guilty, falsely. So I'm not a fan of the juror, okay? And he deprived Greg of a basic fundamental right in our criminal justice system, which is you don't get convicted unless proof beyond a reasonable doubt has been proven to 12 jurors. And he didn't get that. And he's entitled to it under the Constitution. So, but I don't actually care about that. I don't care about any other issue than proving his innocence. Yeah,
So what about accounting for the child in the 2 days between knowing where Greg was at the crash time? Did the family or the children, did that look into to see maybe the time for unaccountability was even less?
Look into what?
For the victim and his family.
Oh,
Did
oh.
anybody look into that? You know what I mean?
It's one of the avenues I didn't have time to. We had to laser beam focus.
We're at 192 days without accounting.
Okay.
So we, quite frankly,
It
doesn't matter
wouldn't.
what the kid
Right. Yeah. Actually, I have.
Okay.
I have done that. That's plugged in, and I just, like I say, I'd love to be able to prove it somewhere other than on the lawn of the Williamson County Jail. Yeah.
Question.
I heard the DA's office saying the other day that, that some people not, could start down his option. I mean, I know the correct answer here, because I've read about it, I heard what the judge said, but, he gets the right to appeal.
Right.
How do you?
Yeah, that I don't. I anticipate that'll still be an issue. They may make that argument, but I think it's pretty weak because he did. He waived. He's asking about the impact of Greg's waiver. Well, the waiver of appeal. What he waived, and I can't get it back. It's forever gone. But what he waived was his right to the review of the trial. I'm not appealing that. I don't care about that. I'm appealing the denial of a hearing he was entitled to. I'm not even. I do have a kind of a backup argument I'm working on, but the main one though, the one that's clear as a bell, is this is the law that entitles you to a hearing on a motion for new trial. We met it, and you denied us. And so I'm asking this Third Court of Appeals to remand this case back to this court for a hearing. That's different from what happened at trial. Yeah.
So, the Judge Geist, or whatever his name was, how he put in that document that he sent back to y'all, he made it sound like you hadn't done the proper steps and that wasn't the right way anyway. So, like, people that I talk to, sometimes they're going, well, they didn't even do it the right way.
Right.
And so I would like to be more informed on that.
It gets. She's asking about the judge's denial, the original. There's now 3 denials, by the way, and they're all written, and you get to see what I wrote and what he's responding to. Okay. So you'll be able to read all of this eventually, but I'll put it in with as little legalese as I can muster. I'm a lawyer, and so it's easy for me to lapse into it, and I apologize. But essentially, the judge did. If you read his order, it's like, hey, you're just not giving us enough here, and he's wrong, and I say that in my response to him. That's not the law. You're wrong about that. And I also was as gentle as I could be, but his ultimate denial, if you'll remember the last paragraph, which is the one that's most important, where he says, even if we had a hearing and you proved him to be innocent, he actually, I myself to this moment can still, my mind reels over what he wrote, which was, even if I'm a judge, I'm in a courtroom, I have someone who has been proven to be innocent in front of me, I'm prohibited. That's the verb he used. He's prohibited from doing anything about it. I didn't say that's insane in my motion back to the judge, but I came right up pretty close to it because that's really how I feel about it. Really? No. This is essential to the justice system. Are you telling me, why do we have judges?
Right.
Who is prohibiting him?
Oh, exactly. Yeah. He prohibited himself. He said. So I sent that back. And one last thing, I'll reiterate. I can answer questions all day. You probably want me to, just shut me down if I need to. What was I going to say? There are some other steps here that are going to happen over the next week or so. So just kind of stay tuned. I mean, I'll hand it off to Jake, and then he can, raise the flag or whatever. I'm going to be complaining about what you just said, which is him being prohibited. My reply to him was, not only you're not prohibited, you are required to do something about it. Mm-hmm. We don't let that stuff go. This is what we do in the justice system. Oh yeah, the race, the Third Court of Appeals. Okay, people, that's the court I'm going to. You have a race. Forget. I hate the fact that judges run on political party platforms because it makes zero sense. There are Republican judges who are terrible. There are Republican judges who are the best ever. It's not because they're Republican. It's just because they're good judges. The same goes for Democrats. You do have a race. Diane Henson is running for Chief Justice. Okay? The person she's running against is a Republican. She's running as Democrat. He's a Republican who just got elected. And he's actually really good too. But if you elect him, you get the benefit if you'll elect Diane Henson. She owes me for saying anything about her campaign. But, that is something you could really do. She's a former federal prosecutor. She's no wilting lily. She's tough. I've been in front of her when she was on the Third Court of Appeals. I like her because she's very well prepared. She asks very sharp questions. She knows the law, and she is fearless in enforcing it. So she's my kind of judge. So look for that race. Yes, ma'am?
Sorry, I got one more question.
That's okay.
All the police brutality going on in America, the shooting, I feel like Greg is taking a bullet for 35 years, and how this county allows a detective to get on the stand and say he's a
Yeah.
Right.
that he actually questioned him, that he also admitted in court that he told Polly that he might have been on the case. He did it proudly, and the people, especially the county, are not agreeing that a detective is supposed to murder of justice. Was able to stand on the stand and do this proudly and say, yes, I did that. And
Yeah.
eventually, nobody's doing it.
I know.
Nothing
Well,
happens in town.
I hear you, and we're having a lot of that. I'll say this. I noticed this last year. I'm the lawyer for Fran and Dan Keller, who spent 23 years in prison. And I'm also the lawyer for one of the women in San Antonio. She spent 17 years in prison before we got them out last year. And I noticed something that we came to call amongst ourselves, call it innocence fatigue. And in other words, there is so much of this stuff, it wears people down. They just can't believe it. We've got another. We just had Michael Morton. We got another again.
Yeah.
We're doing it again, and then the next day and the next day. So that's a lot of it. It's really hard to keep this up. But I hope you guys do, because you're on the right team.
If you have solid evidence that Greg didn't do it, then did somebody else do something, or was nothing done?
That is $1 million question. What he's asking is, was a crime ever even committed, or did somebody else do it? And that's something I'm not answering. Yes, ma'am?
I don't understand if all the emails were deleted between CPS and the police, why is there no backup server? Even if they were switching servers, a department that big has to
Yeah,
have a
she's
backup.
asking that, you know, the emails that got deleted, aren't there servers? Aren't there, it just completely disappeared off the face of the earth between two government agencies?
Yeah.
I don't have a good answer for that, but it's one of the things I'm going to be looking into, because I don't buy that either. Yes, sir. Oh yeah, the writ of habeas corpus that the judge mentioned. That was very annoying. Greg always has the writ available to him. Okay, that's plan D if the other stuff doesn't work. You don't go directly to the last possible thing that can be done for him and skip everything else.
That's 2 years, right? That process?
What? No, the writ process is even longer. I'll explain. Why explain that difference? An appeal goes to. There are 6 justices at the Third Court of Appeals in Austin, 14th Street. They review all the cases from all these counties that go from Bell County all the way, not kidding, to Tom Green County, San Angelo. That's how big that district is. Okay, so that's the 3rd judicial district.